Hey everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. Didn't think I'd be doing 3 posts on the same story that has just been insane on a Thursday. That you would not think that a lot of WWE news heading into Saturday night's main event coming up this weekend. It's a big weekend for wrestling, but the rumors and reports and just the crazy situation surrounding WrestleMania and WrestleMania 42 no longer being held in New Orleans after being announced almost 3 months ago to the day by The Rock in a segment that now means absolutely positively nothing in the grand scheme of things in WWE. So New Orleans is off the table. They will get a WrestleMania further down the line. Security measures, infrastructure, a lot of things were thrown out there. Money, obviously. And there's been a lot of speculation about where WWE is going to go for WrestleMania 42 in 2026. And we might have an answer. It has not been confirmed yet. Let's just be clear about that. That's not what this post is about, and we'll probably have a follow-up when this actually becomes official, once we get more information. But based off of a lot of people, and I'll first give the credit to NOLA.com, they report that it appears as if we are going to get history, but it is not the history that we were expecting. It looks as if for the first time in the history of WrestleMania, back-to-back years will be held in the same location. You heard that correctly. WWE, at least as what is initially being reported, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada, will hold WrestleMania 42 once again. And listen, on some level, I get this because, and let me read what the article said. Quote, after the success of this year's event, the new leadership running WWE, TKO, decided that they would rather hold next year's event in Las Vegas and see what the response they get from fans, according to an industry official who wasn't authorized to be quoted by name. PW Insider has been all over this as well. A lot of people are frantically trying to confirm what's going on because this is really an unprecedented situation where in back-to-back years, we're basically less than a year out and we don't know where WrestleMania is being held. And in back-to-back years, it looks like it's going to be Las Vegas. And if we're talking about the financial component of this, then like I heard Orlando was thrown out there because they got a huge grant. If they were going to do this in North America, Vegas does make some degree of sense. It does because there's a lot of money there. TKO's headquarters is basically based there. You've got the UFC out there. They could probably frame like a whole weekend or something or a whole month surrounding, WWE, TKO, UFC being in Las Vegas, like they can frame it around that. That's all fine and dandy. But if their idea is, hey, we're going to go back to Las Vegas for another year, because yes, on record from a financial perspective, this was the most, the most visible and the most financially successful WrestleMania. But that's because they were charging an arm and a leg for tickets. And I live on the West Coast. I would have loved to have been at WrestleMania 41. I wasn't. Creatively, it was probably one of the weaker WrestleManias of the last handful of years. Like there has not been. I mean, if you take out really like in the last 5 or 6 years, like 41 was pretty bad on the grand scheme of things. But a lot of people are going to say, yeah, you know what? They're trying to get a do-over. Listen, if that's WWE's mindset to go back to Vegas because they need a do-over for what happened, that is completely the wrong way to go. And listen, I don't think WWE thinks that like it was a bad WrestleMania. They're looking at the numbers. And that's I think what really is the problem here. And I've said on record that, TKO's infatuation with money is starting to really hurt the perception of WWE from a fan perspective and from just a wrestling insider and perspective. It's like on some level, I get it. WWE is very profitable. They're very popular right now. But a lot of the pixie dust is starting to wear off, and you're starting to see the greed and the dollar signs really speaking out. Because yes, on some level I get why they got out of New Orleans. There was a lot. It made some sense because they had held 2 WrestleManias in the last 15 years out there. They had 30 and 34, so going back there after 8 years kind of made some sense. But then at the start of this year, like literally a month before they made the announcement, there was a massive terror attack that affected the one of their signature events, the Sugar Bowl, from being played on the day it was supposed to be played. So there's been some issues with New Orleans, like from a safety perspective that, had some people concerned. So like it jumped out to me when New Orleans became announced as the location. I was like, man, that's it wasn't underwhelming. I get it. It's a fun city to go to. And it's also a great food city from everybody I've talked to. But it didn't really make a ton of sense to me for them to go there. But so here's where I land with all this. If they're gonna do this in North America, then Vegas, if you take away Vegas holding last this year's WrestleMania, Vegas makes a ton of sense. Just based off of the fact of how, if this is all about money, then you know what? Hey, go back there. There's a ton of money that can be made on the strip. WWE World was very successful for them. Like they had a bunch of stuff going on there. Even if the event itself, from a creative perspective, was kind of a letdown. But I got to tell you, man, this is kind of a disappointment if they go this direction, because it just again screams to me all of the issues that I've had with WWE, um, outside of the creative standpoint. Because when it comes to, like, the business side, a lot of that is starting to interject itself into the creative side, and it affected this year's WrestleMania. You had The Rock involved in a lot of this stuff. This is from a PR standpoint, this is a fucking disaster. And there's reports that WWE knew a while ago that they weren't going to do this in New Orleans, despite announcing it 3 months ago. And so the fact that they're going back to the location, that was kind of panned from like, just like a creative and from an event standpoint, it was successful for them in terms of money. And that's all at the end of the day that they really care about. And they're successful, which is fine. That's fine that you can do that. But at some point, you have got to, kind of at least give a shit about your fans, because this is starting to become a problem when I can't imagine what it's going to look like for ticket sales. It was a disaster this year. If you wanted to get in, you were looking at maybe close to $1,000 to sit in the upper tank of Allegiant Stadium. Like full disclosure, I spent like about $300 to sit in a pretty good seat at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles for WrestleMania 39, which was right before TKO bought WWE. This is not like, it's from a creative perspective. Triple H is doing as good of a job as he can, but some of his creative picks he does is worn off. And a lot of this business stuff and a lot of this nonsense, especially with the Dwayne stuff and the Rock stuff, and like a lot of the TKO pieces of this, and them trying to, like, interject a lot of stuff that they think is good for business and is going to bring them in more money. You've got to you got to find a medium, and you got to find a middle ground with your fans, because at some point this is not going to work out and they're going to start to lose money. So you got to nip this in the bud pretty quickly. And again, like I said, if they were going to do this in North America, based off everything that we had heard, a mysterious bid to go back and do something unprecedented and go do WrestleMania in the same city back-to-back years, okay, cool. I mean, SummerSlam spent like a bunch of years in Los Angeles. But guys, this is a 2-day event. It's the biggest event of the year. It just it doesn't pass the smell test for me. Like, I get it, but I don't like it. So here's hoping that it's not true, because I think London would make a ton of sense. It would create a lot of buzz. They could still make a ton of money off of it and not end up like, kind of alienating their fan base at the same time. But you know what? They want to do Vegas. They want to do Vegas. But what a wild, wild day here in the world of professional wrestling. We'll see how this shakes out. We'll probably have some more information, hopefully by the end of the week, because like I said, we're heading towards, like, we're going to have Saturday night's main event this week. And then in 2 weeks, you're going to have Money in the Bank. So it's going to be a nuts stretch of time here for WWE in terms of what they're doing from a content perspective. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.